Wir sind zurück mit Josh zum dritten Teil des Interviews mit Josh Friedman, dem Journalist, der gerade in Kiew war. Wir haben noch einige Fragen offen und ich fand es soweit ganz interessant, von daher bin ich gespannt, was jetzt kommt. Josh, thank you again for having, for allowing us to talk to you and listen to your experience. We'll stick a little to the topic of the channel, even though we are aware that your expertise in that field isn't the biggest. When you saw the people with weapons, did you get the impression that they handled, especially on the inner side, the militias that freshly recruited civilians that got weapons? Were they, in your opinion, were they handling them with proficiency? How did the weapons look? Did you think did you get the impression they were properly armed, or was it more like a ragtag group with rusty old pieces?
Well, it's a little bit of a complex situation to break down. And obviously, like you said, I have no expertise in this field, but you have, let's just call them militia members. The Ukrainian government's referring to them as the territorial defense, but let's just call them militia members. So you have militia members in all kinds of different roles. Some must be out on the front actually fighting. I wasn't there, but some of the guys recruited, I presume, will actually be out on the front. Then the ones I'm seeing on a regular basis are the militia are patrolling the streets. So they could be doing various roles. They could be patrolling the streets of Kiev at night during curfew. They could be manning checkpoints. I saw militia members regularly assisting refugees, like in Irpin, for instance. There are militia members helping with the evacuations. So I wasn't seeing any of these guys in combat roles. My general impression, based on what I was hearing from people there, is that the Ukrainians are underarmed, that there are more people who would take up arms than they have to give out.
That's a very good follow-on question, because there's this accusation that the Ukrainians force people to fight a highly trained military, force people who have no experience themselves. As you say, they have more volunteers than weapons. So in your opinion, is there any truth to that they actually force people to fight who don't want to, or is it really in this way, which others report, that it's all volunteers?
Well, that's a really politicized issue. And I hear the sentiments that you're bringing up, that other people are conveying. I hear those sentiments and all. I hear those sentiments as well. And I don't find them to be so representative of the situation. So yes, it's true that men between the ages of 18 and 60, with limited exceptions, are not allowed to leave the country. And in a sense, that's because they need to stay and fight. But no, not every man who, so I had, you could call them fixers, friends of friends. I had people there assisting me. And I think all of them were men between the ages of 18 and 60, and none of them were in the militia. None of them were about to join. One of them conveyed to me that he would like to be armed, but he didn't have the opportunity to be. So I don't think that it's really representative of the situation to say that all Ukrainian men are being forced against their will to fight highly trained soldiers that are part of the second largest military in the world. I'd say that is a definite mischaracterization of the situation.
And I finally have to do some German translation now. Also ich habe ihn zunächst mal gefragt, wie es denn aussieht, ob er irgendwas sagen kann, die Bewaffnung und so weiter, auch wenn es natürlich nicht seine Expertise ist. Und er meinte, dass ich habe sie Miliz genannt, die Ukrainer nennen sie die Territorial Defense glaube ich, nennen sie es, dass die in verschiedenen Rollen da sind. Einige sind wohl an der Front zum Kämpfen, andere haben Flüchtlingen geholfen, andere haben Wachposten gemacht und so weiter. Und generell gäbe es mehr, hätten sie zu wenig Waffen. Und das hat mich dann zu der Folgefrage gebracht, denn ich hatte im eigenen Freundes- und Bekanntenkreis gab es Leute, die das sehr emotional debattiert haben, dass eben die Ukraine, die Regierung Leute zwingt, gegen hochgerüstete und gut ausgebildete russische Soldaten zu kämpfen, die selber keinerlei Erfahrung haben. Und er sagt, dass das eine Falschdarstellung wäre, denn es ist richtig, dass man zwischen 18 und 60 das Land nicht verlassen darf, außer auf wenige Ausnahmen hin. Allerdings ist es auch so, dass sie viel zu wenig Waffen haben für die, die da sind und keineswegs muss jeder kämpfen. Er hat zum Beispiel die Fixer, die er hatte, also die Leute, die ihm Sachen vor Ort sind und ihm weiterhelfen sozusagen, die waren alle in dem Alter und keiner von denen hat gekämpft und einer von ihnen hat gesagt, er hätte gerne eine Waffe, aber er bekommt keine. Also der sagt, das ist eine grobe Misscharakterisierung, ist die wörtliche Übersetzung. Also auf gut Deutsch, er legt sich nicht endgültig fest und sagt, nein, hier kämpft keiner, der nicht kämpfen will. Aber die Behauptung, dass eben die Ukraine ungebildete Menschen zwangsweise an die Front schickt und verheizt, das ist wohl ganz klar falsch und nicht den Tatsachen entsprechend. Ich werd ihn jetzt fragen, also Josh, wie sieht's aus mit die, hast du, wo wir über Bewaffnung geredet haben, was ist an Panzerfahrzeugen in der Stadt? Hast du Artillerie gesehen, Luftabwehr und so weiter? Hast du da irgendwas gesehen oder ist es vor allem Infanterie mit leichten Waffen? Josh, we talked about weapons and the armament. When you were in the city, did you see tanks, armored fighting vehicles, artillery, anti-aircraft missiles in any sizable numbers, or is it mostly infantry with rifles and some anti-tank weapons?
No, I didn't see any of that in sizable numbers in the city. And to I I don't recognize all guns by any means, but I definitely saw men, militia members, policemen likewise walking around with rifles. And to me, it seemed like, all right, that could be enough to patrol the streets and to handle curfew, but it would seem to me like they would be very underarmed if those militia member and policemen would actually have to fight the Russians in a battle for Kiev.
Also er hat von schwerem Gerät hat er nicht viel gesehen, aber er hat wohl etwas gesehen, was die Bewaffnung der Territorialeinheiten und der Polizei, die er gesehen hat, angeht. Da hat er den Eindruck bekommen, dass die nicht über die Maßen gut bewaffnet sind. Und er sagt, das ist nicht, also die haben Gewehre gehabt, aber sonst nicht viel. Von daher dürfte das schwer für die werden, wenn sie sich mit Panzern in der Stadt anlegen müssen. Die nächste Frage liegt dann natürlich nahe. Ja, hast du mit Leuten gesprochen? Hast du irgendwelche Erfahrungen, wie gut die Ausbildung der Freiwilligen ist, die jetzt den frisch beigetreten sind? Wer die laufend noch ausgebildet? Haben die irgendeinen Crashkurs erhalten? Was ist da dein dein Kenntnisstand? When we're talking about the volunteers, can you say anything about their education, their training? Have you talked to some of them? How long have they been trained? Are they continuously being trained? I saw an interview where two said they got a basic training for 3 days, and then since then they are manning checkpoints. Or is it like all of them that they are trained just 3 days, or is there continuous training? Did you talk to any one of them?
I don't have such a good grasp of that. My gut and my initial impression was that they didn't go through so much training, at least the average guy on the street, the average militia member, the average guy manning checkpoints. I did briefly visit a training camp. I'm not even sure if I should say which one.
Maybe don't.
That was, yeah. And just based on my trip to the training camp, I don't think I can even really gauge how well and to what extent they're being trained. That's not something that isn't a question that I really tackled while I was there. But but regarding the firearms and the weapons, maybe you want to go back to taking a look at some of these Irpin photos. I don't think any of them are compromising.
Okay, sure.
Want me to
Yeah, pull them up while I translate what you just said. Also er hat den Eindruck bekommen, dass sie nicht über die Maßen gut trainiert sind. Er hat, wenn ich so richtig verstehe, auch kein fortlaufendes Training gesehen. Also das dürfte wahrscheinlich bei diesem Bericht bleiben, dass sie 3 Tage Training bekommen haben. Er war in irgendeinem Trainingscamp, aber auch dort hat er irgendwie nicht den Eindruck bekommen, dass über die Maßen viel Training stattfand. Wir gehen jetzt zu ein paar Bildern, die er noch hat, damit wir mal gucken können, was wir da erkennen können, aber ich sehe hier, can you go back, please, of what you just showed on the bridge?
I wasn't sure if you're ready to take a look at it, so yeah.
Yeah, this
you probably
here,
want to take a look.
Can you zoom the picture in the center in? Can you zoom that in, please?
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yes.
Okay, so he has an anti-tank weapon on his back at least.
And that's what I was going to bring up, that I wasn't sure which one it was, but I believe that it was an anti-tank weapon, and I saw those in Irpin.
Okay.
And there were certain soldiers carrying those who asked us not to photograph them. This soldier, but this soldier, you can't see the face.
Mhm. Also wir schauen jetzt hier nur ein paar Bilder an und hier sehen wir, das ist der trägt eine Panzerfaust auf dem Rücken, wie ich das sehe. Das dürfte ein russisches Fabrikat sein, ein sowjetisches, aber ich kann den Typ hier nicht erkennen, aber da bin ich ja leider auch kein Experte um die ganzen verschiedenen RPG in den 20ern vor allem. Da gibt es ja 23, 24, 25, 26 und 30, 32 glaube ich auch. Da gibt es eine ganze Menge, da bin ich leider nicht der Experte. If you want to show us more, or you can just judge from your point how often you saw something, like if you can say a percentage, how often you saw that on somebody's back.
And is this an RPG?
Yeah, it should be a Russian. I'm 99% sure this is an anti-tank weapon.
I thought that that was my best guess. Anyway, so the vast majority of soldiers walking in and out of Irpin were not carrying those. I would say 1 out of 100 maybe.
Oh, okay. Also er sagt, wenn die nach Irpin gegangen sind, also zur Front, da hat die überwältigende Mehrheit nichts dieser Art auf dem Rücken gehabt. Also höchstwahrscheinlich keine Panzerabwehrwaffen, zumindest muss man sagen, natürlich aus der Stadt nach draußen gebracht. Und er sagt möglicherweise nur einer von 100. Das wäre natürlich überraschend wenig. Ich hätte jetzt mit viel mehr gerechnet. Okay, was it different? War es anders in der Stadt? Haben dort mehr welche gehabt? Haben da überhaupt welche solche Waffen bei sich gehabt bei den Checkpoints? In the city, was it different? Did more of them have weapons like this, or did they have any of them at all?
No. Well, okay. 2 things I need to note here. One, to be clear, we explained it earlier, but just to be clear, these shots from Irpin are not at the front. They're at this infamous bridge and river crossing. Although this soldier is headed in the direction of the front. Make of that what you wish. At the checkpoints, I rarely saw any weapons. I'm racking my brain. I'm trying to think of if I saw anything other than guns. I don't recall, but that doesn't mean they're not there. You don't know what's stashed at various checkpoints, and there were trenches being dug, like I said. So I don't know what kind of weapons were in the city itself. Walking around, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it makes kind of sense that if the Russian tanks aren't rolling towards you, you don't have to carry it on you all the time, which is just extra weight. So in this regard, we can probably not come to too big of a conclusion just by you saying you didn't see them on checkpoints. Also er sagt, auf Checkpoints hat er wenig gesehen, aber man muss natürlich sagen, das ist nicht unbedingt viel aussagend, denn wenn die weit hinter der Front sind, dann können sie vielleicht Panzerabwehrwaffen haben, aber die müssen sie ja nicht die ganze Zeit mit sich herumtragen, ein paar Kilo extra, wenn kein Panzer in der Nähe ist. Also insofern ergibt es Sinn, dass er dort auch nicht besonders viel gesehen hat. Please.
This photo, again, from the same spot in your pin might be of interest to you. There's a dead body being carried on a stretcher. You can see here a volunteer, militia member, whatever you want to call him. He's got the blue tape on an arm, so it's not just some random dude. The Ukrainians had blue or yellow tape. And that's his, is that a rifle, I presume?
It's an AK, I think an AKM, if I see the curvature of the gun. So it's like, what is it? Late 60s, early 70s assault rifle in 7.62 by 39. Powerful, but not the most modern one. But it should do the job if the guy knows how to handle it. Also was wir hier sehen, meines Erachtens ist eine AKM und 7,62 mal 39 und wenn der Schütze weiß, was er tut, dann sollte die schon was anrichten können. Er muss halt treffen können.
You want to take a look at what this guy's got on his back?
Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, you're right in the regard that, okay, they're going back to the city. I remember the perspective. So in that regard, they would probably not take their anti-tank weapons with them. If they are like shifting while one unit goes in so they can rest a little, they would probably leave their heavier weapons behind and just take their rifles. So in this regard, it doesn't help too much. And I think that's an AK-74, if I see it correctly, standard assault rifle. But like
Oh, I'm sorry.
But that's like what you expect.
I want to say that I saw the anti-tank weapons going in both directions at this spot, but maybe I'm not recalling correctly. I thought I saw them going in both directions.
Also meint,
I'm pretty confident I saw them going in both directions.
Okay. Also ich habe das Bild hier gesagt, die laufen in Richtung der Stadt auf, die Perspektive kennen wir schon und demnach wäre es jetzt nicht überraschend, dass sie keine Panzerabwehrwaffen dabei haben, weil die könnte man ja denken, die lassen sie zurück an der Front, wenn die selber durch eine frische Einheit ausgewechselt werden, um sich ein paar Tage zu erholen. Aber er sagt, er ist ziemlich sicher, dass er in beide Richtungen Menschen mit Panzerabwehrwaffen hat gehen sehen. I think we should, like the pictures, it would probably make sense to put them in the folder and analyze them. I'll analyze them in a separate video and not take your time for that unless you're interested in it, but then we could also make a different video for your own audience where we talk about that. But I think it makes sense to continue with the rest because we are already in the third video.
Well, I'm not sure which direction you want to go, but I thought you might be interested in some photos or video from Kiev of a couple of the more well-known airstrikes that occurred.
Oh yeah, please.
Obviously not of the airstrikes, but of the damage.
Yeah.
Okay, where do I have them? Actually, I could just go to a photos folder. All right, so let's see, where do we start? Oh, I didn't import that one. I forget which district this was in, but it was.
Yeah, everyone has seen that, I think.
Early in the war, it was the most. This was the most famous image early in the war, and I believe it was like 5 to 10 kilometers away from Giuliani Airport, the second civilian airport of Kiev, and it was hard to come up with what possibly could have been the target here.
I guess in my opinion, it's probably just a failure in the navigation system of of a cruise missile, if it was that, which is not unheard of, which just happens. Also er meint, das war so 10 Kilometer vom nächsten Flughafen, von dem zivilen entfernt und er kann sich nicht vorstellen, was da der Grund gewesen sein soll, das so zu beschießen. Und ich sage, also mich würde es soweit nicht wundern, wenn einfach die Navigation eines Marschflugkörpers nicht funktioniert hat. Das kommt ja durchaus öfter vor. Es gab jetzt auch den Bericht, ich habe selber in einem Lagebericht, ich glaube vor 2 Tagen davon gesagt, dass wohl in Donetsk eine Rakete eingeschlagen sei. und hatte dort vermutet, dass es wenig Sinn ergibt, aber dass möglicherweise die Ukrainer mit Mehrfachraketenwerfern auf Donetsk geschossen haben könnten. Und heute kam die Meldung rein, dass es wohl eine Tochka war. Und da wird vermutet, da liegt nahe, dass die aus Russland geschossen wurde auf die ins ukrainisch kontrollierte Gebiet und einfach auch wieder die Navigation fehlgeleitet hat und deswegen die Rakete zu kurz eingeschlagen ist. I think that reminds me of news I got from Donetsk, where 2 days ago I think there was a missile strike in the city of Donetsk, and which wouldn't have made too much sense because why should the Ukrainians shell Donetsk, the city itself? And today I got the news that it was a Tochka ballistic short missile that is supposedly has hit the city. And if you conclude all the evidence and everything, what you have pointing in that direction, it seems likely that the Russians used a Tochka missile from inside Russia against the Ukrainian-controlled territory, and there again the guidance system just failed, and that's why the missile crashed into Donetsk and detonated there. So I think it's if you use enough, obviously some guidance systems will fail.
All right, well then maybe it's not even of importance to show you what the surroundings are of this.
No, like assessing the damage might be quite interesting.
Okay, so obviously this is a high-rise apartment block. There are commercial offices and businesses on the lower floors. Right, let me switch over to other photos. Right across the street is a hospital. Then, hold up, let me adjust this.
Auf der anderen Seite der Straße ist ein Krankenhaus, von dem, was wir gesehen haben. Das selbst war ein Wohngebäude und darunter natürlich Gewerbeeinrichtungen, aber wie gesagt, direkt auf der anderen Straßenseite ein Krankenhaus.
This is what it looks like at the bottom. There was debris everywhere, and there was damage probably from falling debris to various places in that structure. Here's the very bottom, basically the cafes and other places that are at the entrance to that building.
Also hier sehen wir, wie es unter dem Einschlag aussieht bei diesen Geschäftsgebäuden. Wir sahen das Erdgeschoss mit den Cafés und so weiter.
This is from around the corner, so you can see the hospital across the street. This is the building, but the side of the building that got struck. And
also
then go for it.
Hier könnten wir das Krankenhaus sehen, wo wir sehen könnten, wie nah das Krankenhaus bei dem Gebäude ist. Wir konnten auf dem Bild ja auch die Trümmer liegen sehen.
And I don't know, oops, that's fast forwarding to something else that'll be of interest to you. I don't know if, I guess I didn't most of the photos I haven't transferred onto my computer, but no, maybe I did. Yes, so across the main street is the hospital. Across the side street is a commercial complex with a big grocery store. And as you might be able to see, there was damage done to that building as well.
Also gegenüber ist ein Krankenhaus und daneben ist ein Einkaufszentrum mit einem großen Lebensmittelgeschäft. Und wie man sieht, es ist auch das beschädigt worden.
And I don't know if there's much more of note from the photos of that area other than it's just a combination, it's a mixed use area, a combination of residential and commercial, and lots of people walking by, going to the grocery store, and just a huge gaping hole in that high rise.
When we see the grocery stores, jetzt wo wir das Geschäft sehen, stellt sich natürlich die wunderbare Gelegenheit, danach zu fragen, wie es mit der Versorgungslage in der Stadt aussieht. Seeing the grocery store, it's obviously the perfect opportunity to ask how the situation in regards to supplies is in the city. Are the grocery stores full? Are the shelves full? Do you think, are they stocking up? Do you have any information about how they stock up on food? Do they ration already? Can you tell anything in this regard?
When I was there, actually, had I known in advance, I would have transferred a bunch more photos onto my computer. There was a long line outside this grocery store, which I took photos of, but they're not here. There, when maybe you could see from this angle. No. Anyway, when I was there, and granted, this was about something like 12 to 16 days into the war, something like that. There was plenty of food in grocery stores. Some of them had lines outside, some of them were long lines, some of them did not have lines to get in. When I think I went to the grocery store twice in Kiev. The first one I went to, I was really surprised by how stocked all the shelves were. Basically, everything was stocked in that first grocery store that I went into, with the exception of 3 shelves or something like that. I was able to buy meat at the deli. They were pretty well stocked. Second grocery store I went to had a lot more empty shelves, but still the majority of the shelves were still stocked. At that grocery store, they didn't have any meat left in the deli, but they had fish. But I had heard that around town there were a lot of other grocery stores that were much less stocked, and that increasingly grocery stores around Kiev were having more and more empty shelves.
Also während er war da Tag 12 bis 16, wenn ich mich recht entsinne, hat er gesagt. Und er war überrascht, wie gut alles ausgestattet war. Er war aber selbst nur zweimal in Lebensmittelgeschäften. Einige hatten lange Schlangen, einige kurze, andere gar keine. Und das erste Mal hat er praktisch alles bekommen, was er sich vorstellen konnte. Die Regale waren randvoll. Er hat Fleisch kaufen können und alles, was er haben wollte. Und beim zweiten Mal waren schon die ersten Regale leer, aber er hat kein Fleisch mehr bekommen, aber er konnte Fisch kaufen. Und allerdings, also ging der Trend bei dem, was er gesagt hat, ging der Trend in Richtung, dass es sich langsam ausleert. Und ich gehe mal davon aus, dass wir hier jetzt auf dem Video gerade die Schlangen sehen. I guess those are the lines you were talking about.
Yeah, actually, I forgot. I did post a photo of the line to get into the grocery store. This is the grocery store right across the side street from the apartment block that was struck. And this is the line to get in there.
Mhm.
And this is a line to get into another grocery store.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like completely crazy yet in this regard.
No, not crazy, and definitely not chaotic.
Oh,
And
one question is really interesting. Did they limit? Could you buy, like, empty the shelves, or did they say no more than 2 bags of this?
I wasn't told of any limit, any rationing. Now, I didn't try to buy anything crazy, but I wasn't told of any limits.
Also er kann sich nicht an irgendwelche Rationierungen erinnern, dass irgendwie in den Regalen gestanden hätte, dass man darf nur 2 Sachen davon kaufen und 4 hiervon. Ihm wurde auch nichts gesagt, allerdings hat er selber auch nicht viel gekauft, und das läge dann vielleicht nahe, dass wenn er irgendwie jede Packung Nudeln eingepackt hätte und mit der rausgehen wollte, dass ihm dann vielleicht das Geschäft gesagt hätte, nee, nimm nicht mehr als 3. Another important question when we're talking about the people, both the military or the ones with weapons and the civilians, how was their morale? Die logische Frage natürlich, wenn wir uns jetzt die Menschen anschauen, sowohl die mit Waffen als auch die Zivilisten, wie war dort die Moral? What can you tell about that? You probably talk to both armed people and not.
Yeah, I talked to a lot of people, and it was a mixed bag. Going back to your pin, I think I even showed you a photo of a soldier's face. There were a couple soldiers who, under that bridge, actually spoke to journalists, and we were able to ask them questions. And one of them was actually, you know, I shouldn't say soldier. I believe they were militia members, but they were relatively close to the front. So I don't think they were your average militia guy just walking around Kiev checking who's out at night. Anyway, so one of the guys down under that bridge in Irpin was was cracking some jokes in the little impromptu press conference. I remember at one point someone asked him, have you seen any snipers around here? And I think he said something like, well, whoever, I don't remember word for word, but like whoever saw the sniper isn't here anymore to tell us.
Okay.
So that, like, there, you could call that gallows humor, maybe. Some people describe the attitudes of a lot of people in Kiev as fatalistic. Like, for instance, I interviewed this one girl who was at that point had been sheltering in a metro station for 2 weeks, and I asked her, what, like, do you want to leave Ukraine? She says no. Why? I ask her, why don't you leave Kiev? She says basically, because whatever happens happens, so be it.
But you didn't
And
see any did you get the impression of confidence where they like believing in that they're gonna hold them back, that they will be able to defend the city? Hast du, also er hat erzählt, dass er viel Fatalismus und Galgenhumor getroffen hat, und ich frage ihn jetzt, ob es so ist, dass er irgendwie dass ihm Leute gesagt haben, ja, sie werden Kiew halten und sie zurückhalten und so weiter, ob sie optimistisch waren. Basically, were they optimistic? Those who talked about? Did you find people that were optimistic?
I have one friend there in Kiev who is very optimistic, who's very confident that Ukraine will win the war. I wouldn't say that was so representative of most people I was talking to, although I think a lot of people find some level of confidence in how the Ukrainians had held off the Russians to that point.
Also er hat einen Freund, der war sehr optimistisch, ein Freund in der Stadt, der war sehr optimistisch, dass sie gewinnen können. Und aber er wird nicht sagen, dass es unbedingt die Mehrheit so sieht. Allerdings waren die Leute, die Menschen dort durchaus halbwegs zufrieden, würde ich sagen. So in der Art hat er gemeint, das habe ich leider nicht mehr genau im Kopf, meint er, dass also wie die ukrainische Streitkräfte sich geschlagen haben, das wurde wohl recht positiv gesehen. Please continue.
It definitely did not seem like total dismay. But
Okay.
One thing you need to keep in mind is that Ukrainians are known for being very stoic people.
Mhm.
And often they're not going to show on their face what they're thinking, what their mindset is. But I would talk to a lot of people, and sometimes at certain points, some women would get a bit emotional. Some people would open up a bit, but I would say it's a mixed bag. I don't think they were as a people very confident, but it wasn't total dismay by any means.
Also sie waren, er sagt, man muss bedenken, dass die Ukrainer recht stoisch sind und nicht viele Emotionen zeigen im Gesicht oder sowas, aber generell war es nicht so, dass sie alle am Boden zerstört waren und hoffnungslos waren, kann man das sagen. Ich denke, auch zeitlich sollten wir es vielleicht hier dann mal beenden. Daher will ich damit enden, dass ich ihn frage, wie seine Einschätzung ist, der Gesamtlage, was er so gesehen hat, ob er glaubt, ist natürlich schwer, das jemanden zu fragen, der vom Militär nicht wirklich eine Ahnung hat, aber was seine Ansicht ist, wie es mit Kiew weitergehen wird und ob er vorhat, noch als Journalist während des Krieges zurückzukehren. So we are already talking for a long time. I think we should finish it up at some point now. We can, if we have more to talk about, we can continue this another day. So I want to finish with asking you, even though you are not a military expert, but what is your, what do you think, your judgment? Do you think, what is the impression? And that includes the vibes you got from people. Will Kiev hold an attack? And do you plan to return to Kiev as a journalist while the war is still going?
I'll handle the second question first. I didn't want to leave. I I I want to be there. I still want to be there, but I've got I've got other commitments in life, and it was hard enough for me to get there and take out the time that I did and actually manage to get there and get in there and get access and whatnot. So I don't know if I'll be going back. I don't know how long the war will continue. If it continues on for a long time, I might very well be back. Now, will Kiev hold? I don't know. Some people there had the attitude that, oh, the Russians are not going to succeed in storming it, and a lot of people were just going on with their lives like it was a second new normal. So there were many people just going about their daily lives. Obviously, most shops and businesses are closed. You can't dine at restaurants and whatnot in Kiev. But a lot of people were staying in the city and just going on with life. And some of them had the attitude that Ukraine's going to be able to repel the Russian assault. It was very noticeable to me that as time progressed, I was there, the Russians were inching closer.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not a military expert. And there's so many elements that go into it. There's the air defense element, for instance, where a lot of Ukrainians are saying that they've really done, that the Ukrainian Air Force has done an incredible job of stopping Russian airstrikes, shooting down missiles, keeping the fighter jets out of the airspace over Kiev. It's hard for me to say. I don't know to what extent that is the case, to what extent it would continue, but it just seemed like the Russian tanks, the Russian ground troops were inching closer to Kiev. And it's not just a matter of it seeming that way. They have. Since I left, they have been inching closer. And the fighting gotten closer to the city or even in the city.
Also er wäre gerne in Kiew geblieben. Wenn der Krieg lange genug dauert, kehrt er auch zurück. Es war leider, hat er durch andere Verpflichtungen, musste er schon wieder weg und es war schon schwer genug für ihn, überhaupt die Möglichkeit und die Zeit zu finden, hinzukommen. Und was es angeht, er kann es natürlich nicht beurteilen, aber so ein Teil tut einfach so, als ob nichts passiert und macht mit seinem Leben weiter und ein Teil ist optimistisch. Allerdings hat er auch gesehen, also es ist kaum noch Firmen sind am Arbeiten, man kann nirgends mehr essen gehen und so weiter. Und während er dort war und auch seither kommen die Russen immer näher, von daher ist das schwer zu sagen. Aber sie haben zum Beispiel positive Ansichten ihrer Luftwaffe, wie sie die Luftverteidigung über der Stadt durchgeführt haben. Also im Ganzen definitiv kein verheerendes, defätistisches Bild. So basically, what we can summarize is that it's definitely not defeatistic, hopeless. The feeling isn't complete hopelessness, and we are going to get crushed really soon.
No, not at all. That is definitely not the feeling. And I think not only is there the question of will Kiev hold, but could the Russians, if they took it, hold Kiev? Because it's not theoretically the Russians succeed in storming Kiev, they're not going to be storming a city that's going to greet them as liberators. And you have all these armed citizens, whether they're capable or not, there's going to be resistance.
Also nein, absolut nicht defätistisch, sondern die Frage ist eher, wenn die Russen kommen und es überhaupt schaffen zu erobern, ob sie es überhaupt halten können, denn die werden nicht als Befreier begrüßt werden, sondern es haben unmenschlich viele Leute Waffen jetzt in der Stadt und die werden es nicht unbedingt hinnehmen, dass sie erobert werden, sondern es wird bewaffneten Widerstand geben. Okay, Josh, thank you so much for taking the time. Maybe we'll find more time to talk about any more of your experiences there, but I think for now it was far longer than both of us probably expected, and I think at least from my part I can say it was highly interesting to see it firsthand and to talk to you about your experiences there. And again, I want to thank you so much for taking that time.
You're welcome. And likewise, it's enjoyable to hear a military mind put in some 2 cents into what I was seeing.
Thank you very much. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you.